The Xeraxian scout ship Starweaver materialized at the edge of Earth's solar system, its quantum phase drive humming with barely contained energy. Captain Zornak adjusted the prismatic sensory arrays, expecting another routine xenological survey of what their galactic database coldly classified as a Class 10 extinction zone, a planetary environment so hostile that intelligent life should be mathematically impossible. Initial scans painted a contradictory picture. The planet bristled with technological infrastructure that defied the predictive models. Massive orbital networks, quantum communication grids, and defensive systems that seemed to shift and adapt in real time. Most curiously, these systems didn't follow any recognizable technological paradigm known to the Xeraxian Confederation. Initiating first contact protocols, announced Navigator Krellix, his tentacle-like appendages dancing across the holographic interface. Standard procedure dictated a soft approach quantum handshake, a delicate communication method that had successfully established first contact with over 2,367 different civilizations. The moment the quantum probe touched Earth's orbital defenses, something unprecedented happened. The probe didn't just fail. It was systematically deconstructed, its quantum encryption layers peeled away like the skin of an exotic fruit. Within seconds, the Xeraxians watched in mounting horror as their most advanced communication technology was reverse-engineered, analyzed, and then broadcast back to them in a message that was simultaneously a technical breakdown and a brutal demonstration of technological superiority. "Welcome to Earth," the message read, accompanied by a complex mathematical proof that simultaneously demonstrated how the humans had not just intercepted their communication, but completely understood and dismantled it. "Please stand by for processing." Captain Zornak felt something unprecedented in his 237 standard cycles of interstellar exploration. Genuine fear. The ship's primary systems began to flicker. Navigation became erratic. Communication channels were hijacked, with human signals flooding every frequency. Most terrifyingly, the ship's quantum drive, a piece of technology so advanced it could fold space-time like origami, began to respond to external commands that should have been impossible. "They're rewriting our core systems," Krellix whispered, mandibles clicking in terror. "How is this possible?" The bridge of the Starweaver transformed from a pinnacle of alien technological achievement to a helpless metal shell, now completely under external control. Xeraxian crew members looked at each other with growing understanding. They were no longer the explorers, they had become the explored. A new communication channel opened. A human face appeared, female, with sharp eyes that seemed to look not just at the screen, but through it. She wore what appeared to be a standard military uniform, but there was nothing standard about her demeanor. "Greetings," she said, her voice carrying an impossible blend of professional calm and underlying threat. "I'm Dr. Maya Rodriguez, Earth Sinological Engagement Team. Welcome to the solar system. We've been expecting you." Behind her, advanced holographic displays showed real-time analyses of the Xeraxian ship, its quantum signatures, material composition, technological infrastructure, being dissected with surgical precision. Each system was being mapped, understood, and catalogued with a speed and depth that suggested they were doing more than just studying the ship. They were preparing. Zornak realized then that everything the Xeraxian Confederation knew about first contact was about to be rewritten. This was not going to be a typical encounter. This was going to be a lesson. And humanity was about to teach them why Earth was classified as the most dangerous planet in the known universe. Part 2. Biological Wildfire. To be continued in the next section. The transfer to the human research facility was anything but gentle. Dr. Maya Rodriguez led a team that moved with a predatory grace that immediately set the Xeraxian crew on edge. Their movements defied the standard locomotion protocols of any known spacefaring species, fluid, adaptive, almost too efficient to be natural. Dr. Krellix, the Xeraxian medical officer, began comprehensive biological scans the moment they entered the facility. What he discovered made his multiple hearts nearly stop functioning simultaneously. The facility itself was a living ecosystem of scientific possibility. Walls seemed to breathe with embedded nanotechnologies. Equipment adapted and reconfigured in real time, responding to unspoken commands and environmental shifts. But it was the humans that truly defied comprehension. Rodriguez selected a young human for the first demonstration. Private Jack Harper, a seemingly unremarkable specimen standing at 1.82 meters, with what the Xeraxians would consider an inefficient bipedal structure. When Krelix initiated a standard neural compatibility test, expecting to demonstrate the superiority of Xeraxian biological engineering, everything went catastrophically wrong. The neural disruptor, a device that had systematically shut down higher brain functions in 3,672 different species across the galaxy, triggered an unprecedented response. Instead of causing neural collapse, it seemed to activate something deep within Harper's genetic structure. "Interesting," Harper muttered, pulling the device away from his temple. "Feels like someone's trying to tickle my brain." Krelix watched in absolute horror as Harper's cellular structure began to adapt. Microscopic changes occurred at a rate that should have been impossible. Synaptic connections rewrote themselves. Immune markers reconfigured. The neural disruptor's energy was not just being resisted. It was being studied, understood, and neutralized. Rodriguez approached, her movements calculated. "Fascinating," she said, reviewing a holographic display that showed Harper's biological response. "Most species would have been reduced to neurological jelly. You've just added another data point to our research." The Xeraxian medical team's equipment began to malfunction. Sensors overloaded. Biological scanning arrays short-circuited. It was as if human biology was actively resisting external technological probing. "Your species," Krelix stammered, "you're not just surviving. You're evolving in real time." Harper grinned. "Bug feature, not a bug. We call it human adaptability." The demonstration continued. Each test pushed beyond previous scientific understanding. Radiation exposure that should have been fatal became a metabolic process. Toxins were not just neutralized but transformed into potential energy sources. Cellular regeneration occurred at rates that made the Xeraxian healing technologies look like primitive stone tools. Dr. Rodriguez explained with clinical detachment that punctuated moments of dark humor. "Evolution on Earth isn't a gentle process. It's a constant arms race. Every environment is trying to kill you, so we don't just adapt, we weaponize adaptation." The Xeraxian researchers realized they were witnessing something unprecedented. Humanity wasn't a species that had conquered its environment. Humanity was an environment unto itself. Dynamic, unpredictable, constantly reconfiguring. Krelix transmitted an encrypted message back to the Xeraxian Confederation. "Initial biological assessment complete. Recommendation: extreme caution. These are not organisms. They are living weapons systems with no comprehensible limitations." As if hearing the unspoken message, Harper looked directly at the Xeraxian medical team. "We're just getting started," he said, his smile a mixture of scientific enthusiasm and something far more primal. "Wait until you see what we can really do." The Xeraxians began to understand that they weren't studying a species. They were being studied by a species that viewed the entire universe as nothing more than another problem to solve, another challenge to overcome. And humanity was just warming up. The research facility transformed into a crucible of technological madness. While the Xeraxian observers watched in mounting disbelief, human engineers began dismantling their advanced alien technology with an almost casual brutality that defied all technological protocols. Jack Harper stood at the center of a workspace that looked more like controlled chaos than a scientific laboratory. Scattered around him were components of the Xeraxian scout ship, alien quantum processors, and an assortment of what appeared to be completely mundane human tools: a soldering iron, a modified microwave, several coffee-stained notebooks, and what could only be described as an alarming amount of duct tape. "First rule of human engineering," Harper announced to the bewildered alien researchers, is that nothing is impossible, just improvable. The Zyraxian chief of technological research, Vexnera, watched in horror as Harper systematically deconstructed a quantum communication array that represented centuries of alien technological development. Most species would require decades of careful study to comprehend such technology. Harper was rebuilding it using what appeared to be scavenged computer parts and what was definitely a repurposed kitchen appliance. "You can't be serious," Vexnera muttered, mandibles clicking in technological despair. Harper didn't even look up. "Watch me." The microwave, now heavily modified with alien quantum processors and what looked like copper wire scavenged from who knows where, began to hum with an energy signature that should have been impossible. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing complex quantum entanglement patterns that made the Zyraxian researchers' advanced sensors look like children's toys. Dr. Maya Rodriguez leaned against the doorway, a hint of pride in her eyes. Most species see limitations. Humans see opportunities. The quantum communication device Harper constructed didn't just work. It worked better than the original Zyraxian technology. It could transmit information across quantum states with a precision and speed that made the alien researchers question everything they knew about communication technology. "How?" Vexnera finally asked, unable to contain scientific curiosity. Harper grinned, holding up a piece of duct tape. Humanity's most advanced technological tool. When in doubt, adapt and overcome. The demonstration continued. Each piece of alien technology was not just reverse-engineered but fundamentally reimagined. A quantum drive became a modified power generator. A complex sensor array was transformed into a communication network that could potentially link entire planetary systems. The Zyraxians realized they were witnessing something beyond technological adaptation. This was technological evolution in real time. "Your species doesn't just use technology," Vexnera said slowly. "You have a symbiotic relationship with it." Dr. Rodriguez nodded. "Necessity is the mother of invention. We've been solving impossible problems since we first picked up a rock and used it as a tool." Harper's final demonstration was perhaps the most terrifying. He took the alien ship's most advanced computational core, a device that represented the pinnacle of Zyraxian technological achievement, and integrated it with what appeared to be a standard human computer network. The result was a hybrid system that was more than the sum of its parts. It could process information, predict complex scenarios, and adapt in ways that made the original technology look like a primitive calculator. "We don't just copy technology," Harper explained. "We understand it. We improve it. We make it human." As a final flourish, he connected the entire system to a coffee machine, which began brewing a perfect cup of espresso, while simultaneously running complex quantum simulations. The Zyraxian researchers stopped trying to understand. They could only watch and marvel. Humanity wasn't just a technological species. They were technological evolution personified. And they were just getting started. The transport vessel descended into what the Zyraxian researchers believed would be their final destination. Their monitors showed a landscape of unrelenting hostility, vast expanses of reddish-brown terrain, temperatures that fluctuated between scorching heat and bone-chilling cold, minimal vegetation, and an environment that screamed of absolute inhospitality. "Welcome to the Australian outback," announced Sarah Kimberly, a wildlife expert whose casual demeanor suggested she was discussing a pleasant walk in the park rather than what appeared to be a planetary death trap. Vexnera's preliminary ecological scans painted a terrifying picture. Ambient temperature reached 47 degrees Celsius. Radiation levels were higher than recommended for most species. The ground was littered with venomous creatures, plants with chemical defenses that could kill most life forms, and environmental conditions that seemed designed to eliminate any possibility of survival. What the Zyraxians saw as a nightmare, humans called Tuesday. Kimberly stepped out of the vehicle wearing nothing more than standard lightweight field gear, cargo pants, a breathable shirt, and sturdy boots. No advanced environmental suit. No protective shielding. Just human determination and a wide-brimmed hat. First lesson, she said, bending down and casually picking up a highly venomous brown snake that would have caused most species to flee in terror. Everything here is a resource. Nothing is just a threat. The snake, a king brown snake, known locally as a mulga snake, one of the most venomous creatures on the planet, didn't even attempt to strike. Kimberly held it with a confidence that suggested absolute mastery over her environment. Watch carefully, she told the alien observers, who were monitoring through heavily shielded observation units. With practiced movements, she extracted venom from the snake, explaining the molecular structure, its potential medical applications, and how humans had studied these deadly creatures not as enemies, but as complex biological systems to be understood and utilized. On Earth, Kimberly continued, survival isn't about avoiding danger. It's about understanding it, adapting to it, and then turning it to your advantage. The Xeraxian researchers watched in mounting disbelief as she demonstrated survival techniques that defied all known xenobiological understanding. She identified edible plants among toxic vegetation. She showed how to find water in a landscape that appeared completely desiccated. She constructed shelter using nothing more than natural materials and human ingenuity. A dust storm approached, a massive wall of reddish-brown that would have sent most species running for cover. Kimberly and her team simply prepared, using the environment itself as protection. Most species ask how to survive. She explained to the alien observers. Humans ask how to thrive. The dust storm hit with the force of a planetary weapon. Visibility dropped to zero. Temperatures fluctuated wildly. Winds carried particulate matter that could sandblast flesh from bone. And yet the human team continued their operations as if nothing unusual was happening. Vexnera's monitoring equipment went into overdrive. The humans weren't just surviving. They were conducting scientific research, collecting samples, mapping terrain, and analyzing ecological systems in real time. Your planet is trying to kill you, the alien researcher transmitted through their communication system. Kimberly's laugh crackled back through the quantum link. That's cute. We call that a mild Tuesday. As the storm passed, she stood surrounded by collected samples, scientific equipment that had continued functioning perfectly, and a team that looked more invigorated than exhausted. The Xeraxian researchers realized they were witnessing something beyond ecological adaptation. This was a species that didn't just survive in hostile environments. They made those environments their playground. Humanity wasn't just another species. They were a force of nature. The Xeraxian research team found themselves in a massive human cultural archive, a facility that defied every known method of information preservation and societal documentation. What they expected to be a sterile museum of human achievements was instead a living, breathing testament to a species that seemed to turn survival into an art form. Commander Zornak watched in growing incomprehension as holographic displays showcased human cultural practices that obliterated any conventional understanding of intelligent behavior. Extreme sports played out in vivid detail. Humans voluntarily hurling themselves from impossibly high structures, diving into treacherous waters, climbing sheer mountainsides with minimal equipment. These weren't survival scenarios. These were recreational activities. A veteran Special Forces operator named Marcus Rodriguez took center stage, his weathered face a map of survival itself. Pain is just weakness leaving the body, he explained to the bewildered alien researchers. Impossible is just a challenge we haven't solved yet. The cultural exhibits became increasingly bizarre. The aliens watched footage of human endeavors that defied all logical survival strategies. Competitive eating contests where individuals consumed impossible quantities of food. Endurance athletes running ultra-marathons through desert landscapes. Scientists who deliberately infected themselves with diseases to develop vaccines. Explorers who ventured into the most hostile environments on the planet for nothing more than personal challenge. Most species, Rodriguez continued, look at a challenge and see a wall. Humans look at a wall and see a problem to be solved. The Xerexian psychological profile of humanity began to shift dramatically. These weren't just survivors. They were a species that turned adversity into a cultural celebration. A display about human music particularly confused the aliens. Genres like punk rock seemed to be a deliberate rebellion against comfort. Heavy metal music appeared to be a sonic representation of controlled chaos. Each cultural expression was a middle finger to the universe's fundamental laws. Extreme ironing, one Xerexian researcher muttered, watching humans iron clothes in the most ridiculous and dangerous locations possible. This cannot be a serious cultural practice. But it was, deadly serious in its absolute absurdity. Dr. Maya Rodriguez, who had been observing the alien researchers, stepped forward. "We don't just survive," she explained. "We transform survival into an art form. Every challenge is an opportunity. Every limitation is a suggestion." The cultural exhibit continued, showing humanity's response to global challenges. Pandemics that would have destroyed other species became moments of collective innovation. Economic collapses transformed into technological revolutions. Natural disasters became opportunities for community building and technological advancement. A video showcased children playing in environments that would kill most adult aliens. Young humans learning survival skills as a form of recreation. Building complex structures. Solving intricate problems. Pushing boundaries not out of necessity, but out of pure curiosity. "Your species doesn't have a survival instinct," Zornak finally concluded. "You have a conquest instinct." Rodriguez smiled, a smile that was equal parts warning and invitation. "We don't conquer," she corrected. "We adapt. We overcome. We transform." The Xerexian researchers realized they were no longer studying a species. They were witnessing a force of nature that happened to walk on two legs, dream in multiple dimensions, and laugh in the face of impossibility. Humanity wasn't just surviving. They were rewriting the very definition of survival. The simulation chamber was a marvel of technological impossibility. Designed to break down the fundamental psychological barriers of any known intelligent species, it now stood as a testament to human unpredictability. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, no relation to the other Rodriguez in the team, but sharing that quintessential human trait of fierce determination, stood at the control panel. Her eyes reflected a calculation that went beyond mere scientific observation. This was psychological warfare in its purest form. "We're going to demonstrate something fundamental about humanity," she announced to the Xerexian research team. "Adaptability isn't just a biological trait. It's our psychological core." The simulation began with a scenario that had systematically destroyed the mental resilience of 3,642 different species in the Galactic database. A complete societal collapse scenario. Economic failure, environmental catastrophe, total infrastructure breakdown. Most species would have descended into chaos. Humanity did something else entirely. The holographic display showed multiple layers of human response. Where other civilizations would fracture, humans began to reorganize. Community networks emerged spontaneously. Technological innovations appeared from unexpected quarters. Individual humans transformed personal challenges into collective solutions. Vexenera, the lead Xerexian researcher, watched in mounting psychological terror. This wasn't just survival. This was a complete reimagining of survival itself. "Your species doesn't have a breaking point," he muttered, mandibles clicking in a gesture of profound confusion. Elena smiled, a smile that suggested they were just getting started. The simulation intensified. Global communication networks collapsed. Resource distribution became impossible. Environmental conditions deteriorated beyond any reasonable survival threshold. And the humans, they began to thrive. Small communities became self-sustaining micro-civilizations. Technological innovations emerged from the most unexpected sources. A group of teenagers in one simulation segment developed a new agricultural method using nothing more than discarded electronics and local biomass. Another group created a communication network using repurposed satellite technology and pure ingenuity. Most species, Alina explained, see a problem and calculate survival. Humans see a problem and start innovating. The psychological profiles of individual humans defied every known model of stress response. Where other species would experience mental breakdown, humans displayed increased creativity, enhanced problem-solving abilities, collective psychological resilience, a bizarre sense of humor in the face of absolute adversity. A simulation of a complete technological regression showed humans rapidly rebuilding complex systems from basic components. They didn't just survive, they reconstructed civilization as a collective effort. Your psychological baseline is chaos, Vexnera observed. Most species seek stability. You seek challenge. The final phase of the simulation pushed beyond any reasonable limits. Total planetary destruction scenarios, complete loss of technological infrastructure, absolute environmental hostility. And yet, small pockets of human civilization continued to not just survive, but develop, innovate, grow. We don't have a survival instinct, Alina said quietly. We have a continuity instinct. Where other species see an end, we see a beginning. The Xeraxian researchers realized they were witnessing something beyond psychological resilience. This was a species that transformed psychological challenges into evolutionary opportunities. Humanity wasn't just surviving. They were rewriting the fundamental rules of survival itself. The final test was nothing short of a planetary crucible, a simulation so complex, so utterly devastating, that it had been designed to break the psychological and physical capabilities of any known species in the galaxy. Jack Harper stood at the epicenter of controlled chaos, surrounded by a team of humans that looked more like a collection of impossible solutions than a traditional military or scientific unit. Behind them, a holographic display showed a scenario of complete planetary annihilation, environmental collapse, technological regression, total resource depletion. Most species would have surrendered. Humanity began to optimize. We're going to show you something fundamental about our species, Harper announced to the Xeraxian observers. His voice carried a mixture of scientific precision and something far more primal, a raw, unbreakable human determination. The simulation began with total systems failure. Communication networks collapsed. Energy grids disappeared. Environmental conditions became exponentially more hostile with each passing moment. Where other civilizations would crumble, humans began to adapt. Dr. Maya Rodriguez managed a team that began transforming waste into resources. Discarded electronics became communication systems. Broken infrastructure was rebuilt using methods that defied traditional engineering logic. Each challenge was met not with fear, but with an almost playful sense of innovation. The Xeraxian researchers watched in mounting horror and fascination. A group of teenagers in one sector developed a new agricultural method using nothing more than repurposed solar panels and local biomass. Another team created a water purification system from what appeared to be random industrial components and sheer human ingenuity. Most species see limitations, Rodriguez explained. We see opportunities. The demonstration pushed beyond any reasonable understanding of survival. As the simulated environment became more hostile, human capabilities seemed to expand exponentially. They didn't just adapt to the environment. They began to reshape it. Harper's final project was the most terrifying. Using nothing more than salvaged components and what seemed like an impossible understanding of quantum mechanics, he began to develop a self-sustaining ecosystem. Not just a survival mechanism, but a complete regenerative system that could potentially transform the most hostile environment into a livable space. Vexnera, the lead Xeraxian researcher, could only watch in stunned silence. You're not just surviving, he finally said. You're transforming destruction into opportunity. The simulation reached its ultimate test, a scenario that simulated complete planetary destruction. Most species would have given up. Humans saw it as a design challenge. Small teams began developing technologies that could potentially rebuild entire ecosystems. Communication networks emerged from the most unexpected sources. Individual humans transformed personal challenges into collective solutions with a speed and efficiency that defied all known scientific understanding. A young engineer named Sofia Martinez developed a method of energy generation that could potentially turn planetary waste into a renewable resource. Another team created a communication network using nothing more than quantum entanglement and pure human creativity. Humanity doesn't have a survival mode, Harper explained. We have an innovation mode. As the simulation reached its most critical point, the human team didn't just survive. They began to thrive. Each challenge became an opportunity. Each limitation became a problem to be solved. The Xerexian researchers realized they were witnessing something beyond survival. This was a species that saw the universe itself as a challenge to be overcome. Humanity wasn't just a species. They were a force of nature. The Xerexian Confederation's Grand Council chamber fell into an uncharacteristic silence. Holographic displays flickered with the accumulated data from humanity's final demonstration, a report that would fundamentally reshape galactic understanding of intelligent life. Vexnera stepped forward, his tentacle-like appendages trembling slightly as he began to present the findings. The massive holographic display behind him showed snippets of human achievements, not just survival, but complete transformation of seemingly impossible scenarios. Distinguished council members, he began, we arrived expecting to document another primitive species. Instead, we discovered something far more terrifying. The report was unlike any previous first contact documentation. It wasn't a clinical assessment. It was a warning. Humanity was not just a species to be cataloged. They were a fundamental force of nature that happened to walk on two legs. Key findings scrolled across the display. Biological adaptability, unprecedented cellular regeneration, technological innovation, ability to reverse engineer advanced technologies using minimal resources, psychological resilience, complete resistance to environmental and psychological breakdown. Evolutionary potential, continuous adaptation beyond known biological limitations. We recommend, Vexnera concluded, reclassifying Earth from a death world to a sentient adaptive threat zone. The final recommendation sent a chill through the entire galactic community. Humanity is not a species that survives despite its environment. They are a species that survives by turning every environment into an opportunity for growth. Approach with absolute caution. Dr. Maya Rodriguez, watching the transmission from Earth, allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had been noticed, and the galaxy would never be the same. The universe had just met its most dangerous species, and humanity was just getting started.